Welcome back, everybody. This is the Value Adds Value podcast, and I'm Kyle Krieger, joined by my guy, Will Give You Law the Third. Will, what's good?
Oh man, it's Houston. Enjoying my Houston winter.
Yeah,
75 degrees.
yeah. We are recording this on the 28th of December. This is not going to go out till the second week of January, but I will say that currently, last week we got like 9 or 10 inches of snow. Now we're going to get 4 or 5, and I know our guest Carter Krueger out there in Denver understands what a lot of snow looks like. But we're thrilled to have him back on. We had him on last month, and Will and I are both really trying to do better on our health journey in 2021. So we're lucky to have a friend like Carter to come back on, man. So we appreciate a little bit of your time this morning, buddy.
Thanks for having me. And just to be clear, we don't have even close to that much amount of snow. We're like a 1 to 3 inches. Maybe the sun comes out and melts it. But
Jeez, it was. Of course, we drove up to my parents' house on the 23rd of December, and that night it just was one of those where it snowed like 10 inches and it was blowing like 40 miles an hour. So it just is the worst of the worst because it makes it impossible to see anything. So I spent my Christmas Eve shoveling snow for the better part of 4 or 5 hours. So
I feel like you all go through your regular days, even if there's 9 to 10 inches. Like that would cut everything down.
I hope my family listens to this because, I live in this small town and my dad's got a 4-wheel drive truck and, the snow hadn't gotten really bad and we were planning to go to town to get chicken for dinner. And I'm like, nope, we're not going.
Right.
Nobody's leaving. And everybody's like, really? It's just like 3 miles. So that, of course, my dad drives to town and he winds up because he knows everybody in our town. He winds up shoveling the sidewalk of the restaurant where he picked up the chicken before the chicken was done being cooked. So that was good. So yeah, but like I said, Carter is a health teacher out in the Denver area. Now, congratulations on being named the varsity wrestling coach. You just told me that, which we're super pumped for you to do that. But he's a health coach. And why don't you talk first, Carter, about kind of how you've changed your business just a little bit, even since we talked last time?
Yeah, it's probably my 4th or 5th major change over 2 years in my health coaching business. And it's because at the beginning of the business, the program that I went through really told me, you really got to narrow down who you want to work with. And in the beginning, I was like, you know what? I'm a health teacher, a public teacher, public education teacher. I'm going to work with everybody. And anybody who comes to my door, that's who I'm going to show up for. And it was great in terms of creating what I believe in, because I still believe in that in terms of implementing simple, healthy habits, focusing on not just fitness, which is where kind of our mindset is around in terms of advertisements and everything that's on TV, but focusing on eating, movement, and sleep, as well as kind of talking about the stresses in your life so that those 3 things can really be implemented for any individual instead of just forcing a plan onto you. And then as the business went on, I was still working with a lot of people. So I dialed in my program, but I'm still kind of just opening up the funnel for anybody who walks in. And what I realized was not only were the people that I connected with most and saw the strongest results, but also the people that obviously connected to my own life as a man. I realized that I need to work with men, and I need to work with men that are not trying to get super swole, not trying to put on all this muscle weight, but just men trying to be more present and fully fulfilled in their life, and they need their health to get them there. So now who I'm working with is I'm working on empowering men to build a strong, healthy, energetic body. And this is the part that really makes me pumped, is not only building that body, but building a body that they'll love and be proud of. Because it's one of those things that we see, and I am part of this. We see this image of what healthy looks like, and it's just ridiculous, and it's not the norm, right? We're not professional athletes, and yet that's what we're comparing ourselves to. That's where we get our information from. So it's just building a strong, healthy, energetic body that you feel good about. And you know what? This body will give me what I need throughout the day. It will help me, like Will talked about, it will help me be there for my daughter. Kyle, you just got married. It will help me be there for my wife, right? It's a body that is functional, and it's something that I'm proud of, and it allows me to do the things that I want to do throughout the day. So that's where I'm really dialed in now. I'm relaunching today in about 3 hours. So, but I'm pumped just to kind of narrow my niche and make my content directed towards men. And as my wife and I start a family in the next year and a half, my funnel's gonna narrow even more, and I'm probably gonna work out with just dads, and just kind of dial that in. So I'm super pumped, but it's truly a holistic approach, all aspects of health, and really trying to make it specific to where you're at. Because as teachers, we have a whole different lifestyle than a lot of other people. So if I was working with a guy who was a teacher, we would have to fit that eating, movement, and sleep into a teacher's schedule. So it's I'm super excited about it.
Mm. Do you? This is just kind of a side question. Do you think that being at home and not being in the classroom, because I know as a teacher I can attest to Will like this, I mean, you're up, you're moving, you're going all day. Do you think for a lot of us who are at home, do you think that's had negative effects on our health?
Definitely. And this is where I thought the empathy was really going to come into play. Where, just think about our students. So our students have never been remote learners, right? And then they become remote learners, and we have this expectation that they're going to pick up the technology super quick. They're going to put in schedules in place, and then they're also going to be able to somehow, because they've never been able to do this, they're also going to be able to have a schedule for self-care, And then we're like, well, we don't even have that. So why are we expecting that on our students? And we're 7-8 months into a pandemic, and we still have these expectations, but we didn't take 2 months, 3 months to teach them to our students. Well, that's true for us as well. My wife and I sat down, I think a week ago, and we were so grateful. I know it's a pandemic, but we were grateful for this moment because we will never be at home together working ever again. The second we go back to school, we will never be able to work from home again. So to say that we as teachers also have those schedules in place, also have those systems in place, it's just not a reality. Like, maybe you bought a Peloton, cool, but does that mean you know how to implement that new workout schedule into your life, and you're going to wake up an hour earlier? And a lot of teachers are feeling way more stressed than they were when they were in the building, because it's just not normal for us. So to say that we're somehow healthier because we have more time at home, I would say no. I think it's definitely been detrimental to our health.
And I have to second your thoughts on your statement on being at home with my wife, because my wife is also an educator.
Oh, nice.
And so for us both, I mean, we would see each other in passing in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time we get home, we would eat dinner, probably open up the laptop, start doing schoolwork, and then next thing you know, we're in the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the the state of our existence. But from March until September, every single day, I treasured it, because again, like you say, we're not going to get that time back.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you an opportunity to really kind of dig deeper into each other, as far as what are we wanting for our future, what are we looking at. Kyle and I often talk about how a lot of people are saying 2020 was just this big dumpster fire, but the reality of it is there's some great things that came out of 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and that family time was one of them.
Yeah.
I love spending time with my
Those
daughter.
things.
And say it again.
I was just going to say, what are some of the positive things that we put in place that we're actually going to implement when this vaccine comes out?
Right, and you can get back to normal
Right.
ish. you know
Yeah. And what were you going to say about your daughter?
No, I said I love spending time with her and having this time where I can just focus on her and develop her, and we can have conversations about things, and bringing back to her attention some things that she said she wanted to do when she was maybe in 6th grade, 7th grade, and now that she's in high school, she's like, I remember that. Maybe we should try that. Maybe we should do that. And I think that's just, like I said, you can't put a price tag on that.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You can't put a price tag on that. And then, like I say, if it meant giving up going to the school because of a pandemic to
Right.
deal with that, I mean, I'll take it.
And that just sounds like your daughter's even more spending more time with her own thoughts, like finding her own passions again, where we've kind of been in this clouded mist of just every day, just going through the motions. That's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets
I
redundant.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess one question I wanted to come back to from what you originally said, you mentioned the term fitness, and that for a lot of us, we feel like fitness is the benchmark. So Do you think, and maybe we talked about this the first time, but I don't recall, do you think there's a difference between health and fitness?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we did talk about this last time because if I were to ask you, what do you really want your body to be able to do throughout the day? You would say, I want it to be able to, if we were as teachers, I want to be able to maybe get on the ground so I can kneel next to a desk. I want to be able to be on my feet for 7, 8 hours. I want to be able to maybe lift a box if I need to. Um, and then I also want the energy just to be present and to be able to not have my back hurt or something like that. And that's about it, right? You're not about to deadlift 300 pounds halfway through the school day. So the question is, what do you need your body for? And if that's what you need your body for, just a functional body, well, then maybe we need to take a different look at what your workout or your exercise or your movement plan looks like. So like if that's all I want my body for, then maybe I need to do some push-ups because I want to get some body weight, be able to get off the ground. Maybe I need to do some squats just so I can get down and up from the ground. If you want to add pull-ups, sure, because that's another body weight. But if that's not something for you, then that's not something for you. Maybe you lift a box up and down a few times. If you have a newborn or something like that, and you play on the ground with your child, and like an hour of playing on the ground is great movement, but nobody's going to be like, okay, workout done for the day. But that's what you did, right? You moved and you played and you got up and down from the ground. So I definitely think that we need to change our idea of what healthy feels like and what healthy looks like. Because if you were just to go through a day as a teacher and I were to follow you and track not just your steps, because I know a lot of teachers are doing that, right? I got 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is, steps, but also just the ups and the downs and the fact that you were sitting down, standing up, you're working with kids over here, working over here. That's a lot of movement. So to say that you need to get in the gym for an hour before that or after that, even though your body is completely stressed, is that what your body actually needs? Or is that this idea of what fitness should look like?
Mm,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Because I, like I talked to you, before, like I had done CrossFit for like 7 years, and I still kind of do CrossFit-ish things, but I got to a point where I realized, like, what good is it really to me if I can do 5 muscle ups in a row? Like, yes, and CrossFit brands it well that you're preparing for the unknown and the unknowable, and yes, I won't say that I don't listen to some podcasts and stuff about, you should be prepped for anything, that if your family were in this situation, you would be able to exit and you should be fit. And I do have those thoughts, but like really asking myself, like what, like you said, what good does a 300-pound deadlift do for me? Really, in reality, I mean, how often am I going to use that? But if I could deadlift my body weight 15 or 20 times, that seems like a lot more practical, or even just being like for me, moving better. And I know a problem that I face is my mobility and flexibility are garbage, but I have a hard time prioritizing that because I feel like it's not fitness, it's not
Right.
actually making me better. So um I guess maybe starting out will.
Just if you're passionate about that type of exercise and that CrossFit feels like play and enjoyment, then I definitely wouldn't cut that out. You know, because for me, I love racing triathlons. So it's not to say that I need to be doing that, right? Because after a long week of training, my body feels pretty beat up, but I love it, and it makes me feel like I can still compete like I could in high school. So I still love that feeling. But at least specific about me, what I realized is that I was constantly overtrained. And yes, my results were a little better, but then everything through the day to day, I had to get to sleep a lot earlier. My lower back started to hurt being on the bike, and that's when I started to realize, okay, I do love this sport and I want to train for it, but I don't need to train 12, 15 hours a week. That's just way too much. It makes my body feel like crap. So let's put it into perspective. Still train a little bit, still bike a little bit, but let's bring it down a little bit so I can actually have the energy to be present during my day to day life.
Mhm.
Mm, mm.
And I
And
think you think you hit it. It's almost like functionality
Mhm.
more than anything. Like, what do you need to be at your optimal functional peak
Mhm.
for what you're doing? Because I ain't gonna lie. Like when I used to work out with Kyle and one of our good friends Ben, um, you know, we would do workouts and I mean, it would be beast. I mean, like, I'm like, wow, man, I've spent. But then when you ask yourself, is that what I really need? Or do I need just a consistent, here recently I've been doing a lot of animal movements.
Oh, nice.
Just because I have really bad lower back problems. And so I started doing animal movements, and that has been helping me now. Haven't lost any weight, haven't gained any cardio, but I move better.
Hmm.
I get in and out of the bed easier. I get up from a seated position after a while a lot better than I would before. So like that little functionality piece, I think a lot of people miss because they're so focused on the aesthetic
Hmm.
and not so much on the function of what you're doing.
Definitely.
Mm. I guess the question I have, maybe, and this is directed towards you, Will. Have you thought yet? Because like I said, it's the 20th of December. Have you thought about your health goals for 2021? Because I've
Um,
given mine some thought. So I mean, do you mind sharing a little bit? Like, we can both share a little bit. That way we can um put it out there and make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable. If
you know what? I would, but I've been listening to, I can't remember whose podcast it was, but they said it may have been Tim Bilyeu, it may have been, and he was interviewing someone, and he said, "Stop telling everybody your goals. Your goals need to be yours." And so
Mm,
I'm personalizing them this year, and I'm not gonna put them out. I'm just gonna do the work because if I look at the past, I've always put them out there so that I can have a
mhm,
bunch of people holding me accountable. But it makes no difference if someone else is holding me accountable and I'm not holding my own self accountable.
mm,
And so um, I sat down with my whole family and we had the conversation
Love it.
about our fitness goals and where we're trying to go. And I know that as the head of my household, it really kind of rests on my shoulders because they won't do it unless they see me doing it consistently. They won't. And I know that. But if they see me doing it consistently, when I was going to the gym consistently pre-pandemic, my daughter was more apt to say, "Daddy, I want to go to the gym with you."
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but since then, what has she seen me do? Not a lot. So then I started having to engage her with the conversation. And again, like I say, it's just, I think this year I'm going to do something different because I want something different.
Yeah.
mm.
I don't want the yo-yo. I don't want the yo-yo of
Gosh.
going up and down.
And that just strikes me as something that I hadn't thought about.
Hmm.
You know that if you're sharing it with a whole bunch of people, is it really about you then?
Hmm.
And man, that is crazy, because I had originally said that we would share our goals on the podcast, so that way people could track us. But man, I'm
Well,
with
I'm still going to post. I'm committed to
right.
posting my workouts,
Hmm.
Yeah.
but not focusing on my goals
Yeah.
because my
Very.
goals,
Yeah.
those are mine. Like you know, yeah, yeah. Even if going biblically, the Bible says to pray in silence, so that what you pray for in silence can be manifested to everybody. So I'm kind of taking that same angle this time with my fitness because again, like I say, the yo-yo is tiring. This year, I mean, pre-pandemic, I'd gotten down to 224, 225. I was just, 5, 10 pounds away from my goal.
Hmm.
But yet and still, post-pandemic, I mean, well, still in the midst of the pandemic, I gained all that weight back. So there was something, I know that I can lose the weight, but what was the problem that kept me from keeping it off?
Hmm.
And that's where my focus is lying right now. And like I say, consistency and growth, those are my two words. Maybe even put them together, consistent growth. But that's where it is for me. It's just with the consistency of doing it every single day, or as often as not every day, but again, enough to where it can make a difference.
Yeah. Do you mind if I add a few things here?
Sure.
I The first thing that is always part of the conversation with my clients is that, because you brought up consistency, which absolutely is so important. But I think what we tend to forget is that even if you were to, let's say, have a bad day, which is just a day, right, with choices and You consider them bad, but you just made choices. That's part of your health journey, right? Maybe your physical health got worse, I guess, but you've learned from that experience. Maybe you saw a trigger that now you know, okay, this triggers me to make me want to eat. Or maybe I know that when I'm with this set of the family, we don't move much. We kind of just sit on the couch and hang out, right? So maybe it was a negative day in terms of your physical health, but you are still going on that health journey and you've learned something about whatever that might be. So a lot of people say, "Oh, I had a bad week. I got to start all over." That's not accurate, right? You're still moving forward. You can learn from that bad week, right? And just I want to put bad in quotations because there's just a lot of negative shame that goes along with that. Right? These are just choices. Okay, they might not be guiding you towards where you want to be in terms of your health, but they're just choices, and you're human and you made them. Right? So I just want to put that in perspective because it's just you're still moving forward. The holidays are tough, but I learned so much. I had a ton of sweets. I didn't move as much as I normally would, but I was just telling Kyle before you jumped on, Wilkie, that my family sat down as well, and we realized if we as a family want to get healthier, then why don't we as a family, when we get together to celebrate, make it a healthier event? Like, why do we put all of these difficult decisions of just tons of sweets, lack of movement, everyone staying up super late to watch an extra movie instead of sleeping? It's like, why do we do all that when we know that we all want to get healthier? That's a little confusing. The second thing about the goals, and this is something that I just saw on social media like a week ago, and I was like, this is exciting. Okay. Somebody posted and they're like, why we keep setting all these goals, which is awesome. But why don't we change that for 2021? And instead of setting goals, why don't we create a mantra for ourselves? A mantra that is going to help us get through any situation. And you can take it as deep as you want. But like what Kyle talked about, me getting the head wrestling position, one of my mantras is going to be about my own self-worth. Because I don't know what this new season is going to look like, but I need to know that I am worthy as a human, as a man, as a coach, as a teacher. Like, I am worthy to be there in that room with those wrestlers, with that parent who knows everything. I am worthy to be there, right? And that's going to be that mantra that's going to help me get through that situation. So instead of maybe I don't know what it's going to look like yet. I haven't completely written them out, but let's say there's a super stressful night and it goes really late and a parent berated me, whatever it is. Instead of saying like, you know what, remember that goal you said you're going to get 8 hours of sleep or something like that. I'm going to say, you know what, I'm worthy as a man. These are just people. Take a few deep breaths, and maybe that's going to help me get through that triggering situation of maybe eating a really crappy meal, picking up something on the way home, something like that. And that's going to help me get through that because that's who I want to be. I'm worthy to be who I am, if that makes sense. And I haven't done the work yet. I still have a few days, but I'm super pumped about having just like 3 mantras that are just there, that are going to help me work through the things in 2020 that caused me a lot of anxiety, caused me a lot of stress. And hopefully in 2021, they're going to help work me through those situations.
And especially with what you were saying, Wilkie and I have had a lot of conversations in the past, but especially this year about box checking.
Yeah.
And I think when you write goals, it's really easy to get in danger of box checking just for the sake of box checking. For me, I earlier this year I came across the word fulfillment because I was trying to find a word that really epitomized it, and the definition I took was satisfaction and happiness as a result of fully developing one's character and abilities. So if I were going to pick a mantra, I mean, that's it for me this year. But then it comes to the point where, like a struggle that I have, and Wilkie knows this about me, is I'm such a visual spatial person that I really struggle sequentially. So and because of that, I really struggle with routine. So for me, routine and habits are going to be so, and I think even just like what Will said of I don't have to be consistent about my goal, but just posting like, hey, this is what I did to be physical. That's one of the things I love about your Instagram, Carter, is you just post like, hey, I went for a 3-mile hike with the dog. And then some days you're like, oh, I did wind sprints in 6 inches of snow. It is whatever you want it to be. And I think that's an important part of, for me, one of the things I want to do this year is I want to learn to cook more. Like,
awesome.
My wife's family, we had a lot of, we just kind of came from different families when it came to cooking. Like, my parents cooked for us, but we weren't like hey, we meal prep and we're gonna have like we know exactly like what meals we're gonna have on what days. So like getting used to that. And the things we cooked with my family were pretty straightforward and simple because there's my parents and three kids, and we're all like Wilkie said now with his daughter, like we're going 17 different directions. But that's one thing that for me I want to share as well, because I think if I'm gonna go on a health journey this year, I need to share, like you said, all aspects. So one question I do want to ask you, because it's something that I've struggled with, is is weight the best measure of health or fitness?
Just pairing exactly what we talked about earlier, I would go back to functionality, right? If your weight is getting in the way of you being functional throughout the day, and even go a little deeper, is your weight getting in the way of you being able to do fulfilling things in your life? Then I would say it's you. We need to work on that. But if it's not, then I wouldn't. Um, Weight fluctuates every day, right? You can weigh yourself at the same time every single day, and you could have had one of your best days with a ton of movement, something like that, whatever. But maybe you had something the day before that just soaks up a little water weight. You might put on weight, and you're like, "What the heck? Like I had a great day yesterday." So weight just fluctuates all the time. Um, so I wouldn't say that. Now, if there's a goal weight, because you know that when I was a few years ago when I was this weight, I felt really good, and maybe you want to shoot for that, it's a nice way to indicate, because it's going to be tricky to be like, you know what, is my lower back pain a 7 or a 6 today? That might be tricky to follow. So I understand wanting to have a number, but going back to what Wilkie was talking about with that journey, instead of the end result being the thing that you're focusing on, if just to talk about Wilkie a little bit, if he had just he says, second semester I really want to do this, this, and this, keeps it to himself, but he posts about his movement, his eating, so forth. And I don't see it happening. But if you are consistently what you're talking about at the end of 6 months, and you have done all of these things, and you've moved more with your family, and you've cooked more with your family, and you're still present with your family, and then at the end of the time you only lost 5 pounds, would you say that was unsuccessful? I don't think so. I mean, that sounds like an amazing health journey that you just went. And let's be real, if you did all those things, which I can see in your face, you're going to do this next semester, you are going to feel better. Those animal flows are going to feel super easy. And maybe it doesn't show up on the scale, but it's going to show up in the classroom when you're moving from here to there. It's going to show up with your kid when she wants to go do this over there and over this, and you have to go run around with her like that. That's going to show up. It might not show up on the scale, but it's definitely going to show up. So the tricky part is actually seeing where the growth is happening. Just to do a quick client story. One of my clients, he responds with fine, fine, fine. No matter what I ask, fine. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. And it's taken a lot of months to see growth. But one of the main places that we have seen growth is how he responds to, let's say, a bad decision, a bad choice. I'll be like, hey, so talk to me about your eating this past week. And you say, last Wednesday we ordered out food, and I got a few more servings than I normally would, and I ate it, and it felt pretty crappy, but we moved on from that, and I made a next choice, a healthy one. That doesn't show up on the scale, but the way he viewed that, instead of saying, you know what, I gorged on food, I felt like crap, and then the next day I had some more dessert. That's a huge change. Just something that he's viewing food differently, and you can't measure that on a scale. But those are one of those things that maybe doesn't show up in a few pounds on the scale, but in terms of his overall health, that's not only for his mental health, but it's also his physical health. So it's a tricky one, because we want to look at scale, and if you look at all the advertisements on TV, it's like lose 20 pounds here, lose this, lose that. But what are you growing? How are you actually growing in terms of your health?
Yeah, that's solid. And I think about that whole weight question because one of my good friends from college, he's a Dallas police officer now.
Mm-hmm.
In college, he's 5'11", about 265. So visually, you'll look at him and be like, man, this guy's out of shape. But I guarantee you don't want to go to the gym with him. I guarantee you, because underneath what you're looking at, he's not fat. Like he only had like 11% body fat when we were in college. And I saw him recently, I think it was back in March or April, and he was like, yeah, when I'm on my beat, these little guys, they look at me and like, oh, this little fat cop can't catch me and can't do this. He goes, and then when I run them down, they're looking like, man, you're not even tired. He's like, you don't judge a book by its cover, because he does work out. I mean, he's a fifth-degree black belt. So, the discipline of, and he was a super heavyweight champion kickboxer. So, it wasn't like he was, he big just for no reason.
Right.
He was a big guy and he transformed it into this machine that he's just learned to carry. So just aesthetically, you'll be like, oh man, he's kind of big, he's not gonna be able to do this. But no, he will go get you, run you down, and probably out jump most people that I know.
Yeah.
But again, I think the measure for me has been so long, the weight.
Mm-hmm.
But when I lost the weight, it became not so much focused on the weight, but my back doesn't hurt anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get these little nagging headaches. I'm not as fatigued, going through the day. Like now I feel the fatigue more than I did in April or March or April. Like I feel the fatigue now a lot faster, and so doing the animals helped my body feel better, but I still feel fatigued, so again, bicycle, get me some cardio in, and I have no excuse. I live right next to a reservoir that's probably the length of like, what you say, about maybe 3 or 4 football fields.
Nice.
Yeah, it's got to be a good quarter mile at least.
Yeah, at least.
At least.
So I could literally just go around that, 2 or 3 times and get a good cardio blast in, or go up and down the hills.
Yeah.
And yeah, so but again, consistency, and sticking to your guns. So I started buying stuff for myself that I know is going to help me with my workouts. I bought the little shorts for my bike. I bought the jacket to wear when it's cold outside and I don't have to put on a big coat. I can just, a little Under Armour that'll keep me warm. I bought a hoodie that's not too big or too small that'll fit, like a little scully that'll get, like I started purchasing those little things because those are like little investments.
Mm-hmm.
So that when I get in there, it's like I don't have the excuse, because that's what we become master excuses when it comes to health and fitness. I mean, we will make every excuse in a book. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, I had to go do this. Oh, I stayed late at school. We started this school year. We have a new math team, and so we were like, hey, everybody's like, oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, I want to do this. So we came up with this plan. It's like, let's do this challenge. Let's all do this together. And so we put it in. I think I did it the longest, and I only did it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which was working out 4 days a week. No, we said 3 to 5 days a week. You get to choose, so it's not, wrecking anybody in there. But I only did it for 2 weeks. Most other people only did it once. And so in my mind, I'm saying, well, you all were saying you wanted to lose weight. You all were saying that you wanted to get healthier. You all were saying it, but nobody wanted to do it.
Right.
Because we'll make an excuse. Well, I didn't get off till 7, or I didn't get off until, didn't wake up earlier.
Yeah.
You can't say that to people, because you get all kind of looks when you tell people to wake up earlier. Kyle knows I'm an early riser, so that's my thing to tell anybody. If you don't have enough time in the day, then wake up earlier.
Yeah.
Because I would rather work out in the mornings than in the evenings. Because by the evening comes, then those excuses become a lot easier to make.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And just to add one thing on that consistency, where it's consistently making healthy choices where it's not just movement based. So let's say there is a day where you do work until 7 p.m. right? And you don't have the time. Let's say you didn't wake up early or something like that, and you said you were going to move that day, work out, whatever it is, and you go to sleep by 10, 11 o'clock, whatever that looks like for you. So you get home, you only have 4 hours, And what if a consistent day to you just looks like, tonight I'm going to rest, I'm going to spend time with my family, and we're going to have a healthy meal. Like, you didn't check off the movement box, but is that a healthy day? Oh yeah, absolutely, that's a healthy day, and you felt fulfilled. So it's like there's also times where it still should fall under the fact that you have been healthy, even though, let's say, you didn't move or work out, right? You decided to yourself, you know what, my body is super stressed from the day. I don't have the energy to work out. So I'm going to take what little energy I still have left, be with my family, make it a healthy meal, and that's still an amazing day. You know what I mean? So that's where we have to like change our mindset a little bit, because maybe sleep that night is exactly what your body needed, so that the next morning you can wake up and do that workout like you really want to. No injuries, you're feeling pretty good, and you had that quality time with your family. So it's like this holistic view of
Mm.
what a healthy day looks like, instead of just dialing in on that fitness.
Mm.
Mm.
And coming back to what you said about weight, because you know, I I love my grandma to death, and I know that she will never listen to this, so I'm not in danger of her hearing it. But a couple Christmases ago, I showed up to Christmas, and she grabbed my stomach and shook it, and it was like, "Where did that come from?" And that like threw me, and I think that's why I've been so weight and appearance conscious,
Mhm.
is because of that, you know. And then I'm like, I see myself with pictures, you know. I'm This past summer there was a picture of me wrestling on here we call it a lily pad, so it's like that big long foam pad that you can pull behind a boat or a pontoon. Me and my nephew are out there wrestling on it, and I see a picture and I'm like, oh my god, I look huge. And it made me super self-conscious. And I think that's where my like weight, I've never had like weight issues, but I think it's more the aesthetic. But I think what struck me is like what you said and what Will said. I had a feel good weight, and I know I'm not like super close right now to that feel good weight. I know at my feel good weight, there's not as much pressure on my hips and my knees, because that's really where my worst is from my hip down to my knee. And I know if I were carrying around less weight, that I would do better. And I love what you said too, coming back about, because I started doing CrossFit because it was fun.
Mhm.
Like I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the community aspect, the class. Like I made a ton of friends there, so it was super fun. And I think at some point I got carried away with it, with the fitness aspect and the, oh, I'm gonna smash myself, because that's like a measure. You know, there's a ton of CrossFit brands that are like live sore or sore forever or sore every day. And
That
it's
sounds
like
terrible. Yeah.
I don't want to. But I mean, Wilkie can attest to the days where I would go to the gym in the morning at 5, and by the time I got to school at 7, I could barely move because my body was so thrashed. But I think really I underestimate, and it struck me that health and fitness and working out can be fun. It doesn't have to be work. So I think that's something I'm going to explore, over the coming weeks, of what do I want to do that's fun? Like I can still push myself and get a good workout in, but it can still be fun. Like it doesn't have to be. And I hope my wife's not above me, because she hates it. Like she works out 4 times a week, but she absolutely hates it. There's nothing fun about it for her, and I wish I could help her find something that was fun.
Mhm.
But I guess one question that I do have, that I know we talked about it the last time,
Mhm.
but how do you work with people, and let's make it specific to teachers, because I know Wilkie brought it up and I did, like that guilt and shame piece around prioritizing health, because I know that there's a lot of lip service, especially this year. There's been a lot of lip service to mental health and to fitness and all those things. But I know that even me, I still feel guilt and shame at times about prioritizing my health over the next thing I have to do. So how do you work with people to kind of overcome that?
Yeah, and that's going to be a tricky one, especially with just where our society's going. Because the reality is, I don't know what your school looks like. We're going to get back in the building, and we're going to have the same expectations, and we're going to have to be jump right in and dig another hole. That's just what we do. We just keep digging until the summer, and then we act like we're can somehow refresh after 10 months, but we just keep digging another hole. And it's unfortunately, it's got to be a selfish choice.
Mm.
and we define it as selfish in a negative way. But I've heard it, and I saw it a lot during the pandemic, where it's like, school will go on whether you're in there or not. The question is your family, can your family go on without you? Can who do you really want to be there for, and who do you really need to be there for? I love my students, I love my school, but when I'm most fulfilled is when I'm with my family and my wife, and Wilkie talked about with this days, this repetitive things, we're just going through the motions, and yeah, we're doing great things for our kids, but I'm guessing during those days of going through school day after school day, you probably weren't as present with your daughter and your wife, and it's viewed as selfish, right? Because people that aren't teachers will say, "Oh, teachers got to do more. Teachers got to do more," but we're human. We're just people too, and we could walk out, and the school could fire you or whatever, and they'd have to figure it out, and you'd have to figure it out, and you'd go on with your life. Now, do you still have your family, and do you still have your health after that? That's the big question. Because if you've taken 15, 20 years and you feel like crap, and you're at a place where you're like, oh, I can't get back to where I want to be, and my family's struggling, and I haven't been present with them in 5, 10 years, and is that where you truly want to be? But I created a kick-ass program. Maybe you did. You touched a lot of students' lives. That's amazing. It's
Mhm.
absolutely amazing. But is it truly what's going to fulfill you? So I mean, it's a thing where we got to step back and ask ourselves, what do we really want in life, and what we're going to realize, and what we're going to, because I was telling Kyle about this. I went part-time 2 years ago because I was super burnt out, and I'm still a part-time teacher. And the year before I went part-time, um, I made a conscious effort, and I was still a math teacher then before I became a health teacher. And I made a conscious effort that I was not going to take time to create any crazy lesson plans. It was like every day we're going to come in, we're going to do some whiteboard work. I'm going to teach a little lesson, then we're going to practice, and then at the end we're going to kind of do some group work every single day. My students didn't realize that. They didn't. They just came in, came out, and moved on. But I also said the only energy I'm really going to put out there when I'm at school is the 90 minutes that I'm with my students. I'm not going to put energy into lesson planning. If you guys want to come and you got to tell me when to be there, I'm not going to wait after school every day anymore. And those students said that I was their best math teacher. And I was like, whoa, yo, step back. Like I wasn't doing anything crazy. I was just being there with you talking about math, you know? And it's like, we expect that if we keep just putting hours and energy and all these things that life is going to just transform, but just be there with your kids and realize what makes you happiest. If I were to say, if I were to tell you right now that you're going to take 5 hours of energy out of the building and you're going to put it into your family, do you truly believe that your teaching is going to get significantly worse? I would say no. And then I would also say your kids might realize that you're happier when you walk in the building. You might be sharing more excitement because you're like, hey, I just had an amazing weekend with my family. And now I'm here with you and I'm so excited. And I can't wait to be back with my family when we get home. It's like, it's these things that we got to think about. We just keep digging and digging and digging. What's truly going to fulfill you? And hopefully you realize that you need that health, you need that energy to do the things you want in life. And then that will change that negative, selfish idea into, you know what, I'm doing this for the people that I love and for who I want to be. And that's going to allow me to be a better teacher in the room. Because, just a quick side note, um, that's you being a role model to your students, right? We don't want to teach our kids that I need you to work 60 hours a week and that's how you're going to be successful. 60, 70 hours a week, your family life's going to struggle, your health's going to struggle, but that's how you be successful. We don't want to teach them that. And
Mhm.
yet we are role models to that every single day in the building. So
Wow.
that's a tricky, you know, that's a tricky situation.
And I want to make sure our listeners really heard what you said. Can you say that part again? Say
Yes.
that again for the people in the back.
we are role models to our students. So when we say, hey, sorry guys, I'm really tired this morning. I was at the building until 7 o'clock grading your papers. and obviously we don't say this, but the side notes be like, yeah, I didn't really get to spend time with my family, and I had crappy sleep, and I ate a crappy meal at night, but I'm here for you, ready to go with about 50% of the energy that I probably should have, but I'm here ready to show up. And like, is that the life that we want to show off to our students? We tell our students, follow your passions and be present when you're here, and yet we just drag them down with all this extra stuff that we don't want to be doing, they don't want to be doing. So it's we got to really look at what we want to show off to our kids.
Wow. And I always say in my classroom that more is caught than taught.
Yeah.
And so when the kids come in and they look, they're looking, and my kids know me. I'm Mr. on 100 every day. Like
Yeah.
I am the one that when you come in my classroom, normally I'm either high-fiving, fist bumping, or hugging my kids as they walk in the room. And when that energy is not there, they notice it.
Yeah.
And it's like when you take a day off of your energy and you're teaching, in their minds, they're saying, well, if my teacher takes a day off like that, then it's okay for me to take a day off. It's okay for me to sit here and veg out in the classroom because my teacher's doing the same thing. That's why I hate giving mindless work. Just, I'm tired, so here, let me give you this to just do to leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't care how I feel.
Right.
I'll wait till you leave the room and then fall out on my own and put my face on and get ready for the next group to come in to keep going. Because again, they're watching us.
Yeah.
And we're, like you say, we're the model of what they're wanting, what we want them to become.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants to tell a kid, hey, neglect your family. Don't do anything that you love.
Right.
Overwork yourself, and eat really crappy.
Yeah.
That's your goal in life. No, but we model that over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I watch teachers who order takeout every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Cheeseburgers, nachos, and all this stuff. And part of me, I'll be sitting in my room with my little peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and they're like, oh, you want to order something? That's all you got? This one peanut butter and jelly sandwich will hold me over. I had breakfast. I already got dinner prepared at home. I just needed something just to get me over this little, not starving, this is just a nice little snack for me until I got home. But it's like, you see this over and over, but then you hear the same complaints over and over.
Right.
My dad used to always say, don't complain about something when you're still doing the same thing. If you don't want to change it, don't complain about it. Mm. And that kind of sticks with me now, that most people will complain about things that they wish they could change, not realizing that the only catalyst to changing it is you.
Mm-hmm. And how impactful would that be if I got a few quick examples where you walk in and let's say you just gave a math test your last class and the kid's like, oh, did you grade the papers? And you say, you know what? I didn't grade it, but I had an amazing night. My family and I cooked a healthy meal and we hung out. It's like, what? Or like, hey, I saw your email. I saw you've been emailing me at 7:00 every night, but I want you to know that after 6:00, I no longer check email so that I can really be with my family. Like those types of things where that's like, oh, okay. Like first off, this teacher is human, but second off, here are some healthy boundaries that we could start to set early, and those would be just so powerful. And maybe one kid will be like, did he just say that? And then checking on that. And maybe it blows over 29 students' heads. But if you say it consistently and you start to show them like, yeah, there's healthy boundaries. There's more to life than just what we do in this building and the work that you have. And, just like a quick thing with the pandemic, we, with all these consistent standards and all this, it was tricky for me, but there were times when I was talking to a student and I have a little more flexibility as a health teacher because it's not a core class, but a student would be like, hey, can I do all this missing work to get my grade up or whatever? And I say, you know what? I looked at your grades and right now you're struggling with math. Like, just don't worry about my work right now and do this class and take that time. And it's like, you're telling me I shouldn't do your work? I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Maybe come in for a 5-minute conversation and we'll talk about what you should have learned and maybe some lessons from that. But you don't need to do that 3 hours of work. That's just a waste of your time. unfortunately. And it's like, if like a parent were to see that, I don't know how a parent would react, but it was like me trying to give them an opportunity for self-care and to
Right.
prioritize what's truly important right now.
And and I did a similar thing with my students, and I had a parent question me about it
Hmm.
because I had a student who was missing so much work.
Yeah.
Because we were doing, some kids were hybrid. When kids get sick, they had to stay home. And so I tell the kid, he comes to me and he was like, I see all these missing in the grade books. I said, yeah, I put missing in more time to give you more time to do it. I said, but here's what I did. I said, I put together these videos that if you go watch this 8-minute video, there's about 4 or 5 questions for you to answer. Watch the video on ratios.
Hmm.
When you watch this video on ratios, I'll take all the ratio assignments that we did and I'll plug that grade in for all of those.
Yeah.
Then there's a video on rates with 4 or 5 questions. Go watch that. Whatever you score on that, because again, there's no way I can expect you to make up 9, 10, 11 assignments in just one unit
Hmm.
when I can give you this remediation where the video is remediation and then I'm checking for understanding at the end. And the parent was like, well, he still says he's saying that you're going to give him all the grades are going to be the same grade because it's the same concept.
Right.
We just did a lot of practice. He don't have time to practice right now. We just need the activity of him doing, and so he can understand what he did it. Kid did the work, gave them the final. Kid did better on the final than some kids who have been there all the time.
Right.
And so I told my team at the end of before we left, I said, guys, I'm going to go to this video, and we use Ed Puzzle. So I'm going to go to this for my remediation when kids are out, because again, if they can't get me in the classroom, they can watch this video instead of giving them meaningless work to
Hmm.
just say, do this worksheet just because. But if you didn't get the instruction, you can't do the worksheet. So it's like a catch-22.
Yeah.
And our district is like, post your work online, post an assignment. Post a video of what you're teaching. Well, it's kind of hard to do it when I'm teaching.
Yeah.
To stop and say, okay, I'm going to record this portion of my video, because then who's going to sit there and watch a 20-minute video?
Right.
No one. So it's like you got to start making those adjustments. And I would tell kids, if you're not missing anything from me, go work on somebody else's assignment.
Right. Yeah.
Like those last 2 weeks of school, they were like, Miss Law, I don't have anything missing. What am I supposed to do? You got something missing in another class? Yes. Go do it. Really? No, really. Go do it. If you need help with that, I can teach all subjects. I can help you in reading, science, and social studies. Doesn't matter. If you need help, ask me right now.
Yeah.
And the kids would like, to them, that's like mind blowing that a teacher would give them that option to do it. But again, you got to understand the level of stress that comes with kids when they don't. When I know I'm stressed when I see a bunch of little missing hexagons in my grade book.
Yeah.
It makes me stressed because that means that I got to go grade all of this stuff when it does come in.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine for that kid who's sitting there in not just my class, but in everybody's class, they're missing things. That stress is going to prevent you from doing your best.
Mm-hmm.
Which goes back to that functionality piece, that mental health. And I think a lot of people don't take into account their mental health. They're more worried about their aesthetic than their mental.
Right.
And you can't get the physical together until you get your mind right.
Right. Yeah. Or even like how impactful if you were to be like, you know what, you don't have any missing work, take out a book and just enjoy a free read. Like the amount of time I've told myself that I'm going to read more is just like every day. I'm just like, I want to just sit down and read more, but my mind is thinking about all the things I have to do. So it's just like small things. It's just take this time for you. What makes you happy? Do something that helps fulfill you a little bit.
And that's something that I've struggled with during the pandemic, because I've been at home the whole time, is feeling like, hey, I knocked out all my work and it's only 12:30.
Right.
I've got everything I got done, but I should find something else with my teaching practice that I should do when I could get my workout in. I could listen to a podcast. I could work on our podcast. I could read a book. I could do all of these things. And I think part of my 2021 is going to be to just say, this is the work I got to get done today. When that work is done, I'm going to take this extra time and I'm going to do things that are good for me, because I know one thing that I've struggled with in the past, and like you said, expectations, and I just, one point to make is like, we've all worked with that teacher that works from 6 at night until 8. And then we've had that teacher complain to administration that other people aren't doing enough.
Hmm.
And that teacher somehow shifts the expectation of what the workday is supposed to be. And then there becomes a rift between the teachers who do that and the teachers who don't. And one of the things, like you said, with expectations, especially during the pandemic, like, I've told my kids, I grade everything on Mondays. So every Monday afternoon, check your grade to see what's missing. And I've not had one parent complain about it.
Right.
And I've told my kids from the jump, at 4:00, I won't check my email again. And I've not had one parent complain about it. So, and I think that's a real struggle in terms of the teaching, is the not letting, if someone wants to choose to work 14 hours a day, I mean, I can try to advise them that that's not healthy, but I'm not going to be able to stop them.
Hmm.
But I don't have to. And I think, like a lot of new teachers, especially when I first started, you felt like as a team player, you had to take on everything that they asked you to take on.
Yeah.
You had to take on all of the different clubs and this and that and the other. And one thing that I've struggled with in the social studies is there's kind of the overt expectation that if you teach social studies, you're going to coach too.
Yeah.
There is that expectation, and
That comes
I
from other
know,
departments being like, why isn't that social studies teacher like for PE? Like,
yeah.
it definitely, you got to be a coach if you're a PE
Well,
teacher.
and I can't tell you, where Wilkie and I taught, or where he still teaches down in Houston.
Mhm.
A lot of the times when they had coaches who were PE teachers that they wanted to keep, they'd shift them over to social studies because that was the easiest place to shift them.
Nice.
So, even for me, thinking about going forward in the future, if I were to ever change schools, what happens in an interview when you say, like, hey, I don't want to coach. I don't want to spend this amount of time, because that family time is super important to me. And, maybe someday it would cost me a potential job, but maybe a principal would be like, yeah, I can respect that
Mhm.
and do that. So,
I know, like in our campus, our principal is like, he stresses to get involved in something extracurricular,
Mhm.
just because you get an opportunity to see kids outside of the classroom. Um, I'm not going to invest the time. If I were to coach anything, it would be basketball. Um, but I know the tediousness of going to scout other teams, of staying after school every day. Even though I stay after school every day, like I do that because, I tutor and I have an after school music and arts club. Those things I'll stay, that gives me a different vantage point with a different group of students. I
Right.
don't think it has to be just athletics, but I think it helps me to learn this special population of students who most people don't pay attention to. The kind of, my first year doing it, the kids were like, we're kind of like the misfits. And I was like, that's great. I said, because my whole life I felt like a misfit. I was the one who wanted a skateboard over a bicycle. In my neighborhood,
Mhm.
what do you want a skateboard for? So I forced my mom to get me a bicycle just to fit in.
Yeah.
But the first thing I did when I got to college was I got me a skateboard. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I want a skateboard. That's fun to me. That the idea of skating. Just I'm not gonna put on skates, but I'll get on a skateboard all day long. Um, but it's like those group of kids that don't really fit in. They're not athletes. They're not, the GT, honors kids. They're just our everyday kids who have these amazing gifts and talents that nobody pays attention to. And when I started working with these kids, man, my mind just got blown at the talent. I mean, kids who won't talk in a math class, but is a fluent guitar player. I
Right.
mean, I'm sitting there watching you do things on a guitar. I'm like, you're 12. I can't even do that. I've had my guitar for 5 years now. I can't even do those things. But I'm just watching this girl close her eyes and get in this zone that's just like she forgets that everybody's watching her.
Right.
So it's like I think seeing kids in that light outside of the classroom is so, so important. But have it as a requirement, I think that you do feel better when you see kids, and the kids see you differently because it's like you gave up something for me.
Yeah.
So my kids know when I give up my time, I'm like, I don't get paid to do this after school. This is not a paid gig. This is me giving up this for you. I'm missing out on my daughter's time for you. I'm missing out on time with my wife for you. Not to make you feel bad, but for you to understand the investment that I'm making in this time that we're having right now. And I found that those kids appreciated it a whole lot more. They, like I said, that time was well spent. It wasn't just like a waste.
Definitely.
Love that. All right, gents. Well, we're getting towards the 1 hour mark, and we know that Carter's got another engagement. So, is there any other questions or topics either of you want to knock out here before we sign off for today?
I just want to piggyback on something that you said earlier about a selfish choice. I wrote it down.
I did too.
and I want to just reiterate to our listeners that even if you're on an airplane, they tell you if it experienced turbulence and there's a loss of cabin pressure, they say put your mask on first. Mm-hmm. Put yours on first before you put it on for somebody else. That's not selfish. That's actually selfless. I'm going to do this so that I can help others. Mm-hmm. And I think when you make that statement, I got goosebumps because I immediately started thinking that loss of cabin pressure, how would it be for me to try to hold my breath, to try to put a mask on my daughter or my unconscious wife or, a grandmother that's sitting in front who can't reach all the way up. I would be putting myself in jeopardy. So not only would I perish potentially, but so would they. Mm-hmm. So when you talked about it being a selfish choice that we have to commit that in, I just, that struck a nerve for me in a way that, like I say, enough for me to write it down and, confirmation because Kyle wrote it down too. So mm-hmm. Just big shout out for that one. A selfish choice. I love it.
Yeah, I got nothing. I love this.
Yeah,
enjoy talking about health with other teachers and getting past the amount of conversation that we talked about actual curriculum and grading, and it was not a lot. It was about our health. It was about being present. It was about connecting with our students and having the energy to do that. And then lastly, the thing we talked about was just sharing that our choices are role models for our kids. So if you want them to do this, then we gotta do it ourselves and really really represent what we see as a fulfilled, healthy, present lifestyle.
Mm. All right, so I got that. I want to make sure I write that down because that's going to be the title of the episode. Our choices are role model for kids, or we role model our choices for kids, or whatever we would decide to do. But so for the dudes out there listening, dudes who are teachers, dudes who are not teachers, that are looking for some support and guidance on the health journey, Carter, where can they find you?
So there's two main places. If you are on Instagram, head on over to @healthcoachcarter on Instagram to follow my Instagram. Or if you just want to check on the website, go to www.healthcoachcarter.com. And we just put up a quiz that says, guys, are you on track to be fit by 50? Take a quick quiz, takes about 3 to 4 minutes. And it just kind of gives you an idea based off of your current habits and where you're currently at with your health to see if you're actually on track to be that fit and healthy person that you want to be, but at the age of 50. So I would definitely check that out on Instagram or at my website, www.healthcoachcarter.com.
I love that. Well, Will, do you want to, I think we talked about the final two questions the last time, but we'll go over them again just because they're fun. So you want to give them the last two questions, Will?
Sure. So I'm going to change this one up a little bit because normally we're talking about students. And since your niche is working with men and making sure that they're most fittest and functional, if you could hang up a billboard that every male educator as he's going through his journey would be able to connect with, see and connect with as he's on his journey, his fitness journey or his life journey, what would that billboard say?
It would have to be about the role model thing that we talked about. So how would I word this? It would be something like, what what image of a fulfilled, healthy life do you want your students to see? Um,
Mm.
and it would have to include the fulfilled part and the being present with them. So I don't know the wording, but it would just be about, what do you want them to see? You know, if they leave your class and they have a good grade and let's say math, and they learn math, that's awesome. They can do that in a lot of different places. But if they leave and they say, oh my gosh, here's somebody who was connected with me, present with me, and also portrayed all these healthy lifestyles that I can't wait to start implementing in my own life, and that's what I want to be as a person, not just that's what I want to learn in math. I think that would be so much more impactful.
Mm.
Mm.
That's awesome.
I love it. What image do you want them to see?
Yeah.
And I think that goes along with our mission here, the teacher that students deserve.
Mm-hmm.
And this last one, when it's all said and done, there's no more school bells. There's no more, we've reached our pinnacle of fitness and functionality. There's no one else to train. What do you want your legacy to be?
That I was present and able to connect with all of those that were with me.
I love it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, we appreciate the time, and like I said when we talked the last time, we'd love to have you on every couple of months to just continue to not only bend your ear for ourselves, but to continue to share the work that we're doing, because it is I think that space that you're in is one that people need help in. I think there are a lot of parts of the male image of fitness and health that need to be redefined and changed. So we are thrilled to have been able to share this with you, and hopefully we can, in a month or two, check back with you. Maybe we'll let you do your thing until the end of wrestling, but we'll try to catch up in March once wrestling is done.
That sounds great.